By the 1890s, Rockefeller's empire had reached a scale that was almost unimaginable. Standard Oil controlled nearly every aspect of refining, transportation, and distribution in the United States. Yet, despite the magnitude of his wealth, Rockefeller himself remained fundamentally unchanged. The boy who had carefully recorded every penny, who had watched his father's chaos and learned discipline from his mother, now navigated the greatest industrial empire the world had seen, with the same combination of meticulous planning and emotional restraint. Wealth had magnified his influence, but it had not magnified his personality. He had become wealth incarnate, methodical, precise, and quietly unassailable. Rockefeller's psychology was the engine that propelled this dominance. He understood that most businessmen failed not because of lack of knowledge, capital, or opportunity, but because of emotional instability. Panic, greed, pride, and overconfidence drove them into predictable mistakes. He studied these tendencies with the detachment of a scientist observing a controlled experiment. Every competitor who overextended, every rival who reacted impulsively to market fluctuations, every manager who mismanaged their refinery, all provided lessons. He cataloged errors mentally and adjusted his strategies accordingly. Whereas others chased opportunity in the chaotic present, Rockefeller manipulated conditions to create opportunity by shaping the future. The public, however, saw only the results. A man of immense wealth who appeared calm, unflinching, almost inhuman. Critics called him ruthless. Journalists accused him of monopolistic greed. Yet Rockefeller himself perceived these accusations as irrelevant background noise. His internal compass was not driven by public opinion. It was guided by order, efficiency, and the eradication of chaos. To the world, he seemed cold. To Rockefeller, he was simply acting consistently with principles forged over a lifetime. Minimize risk, maximize control, and ensure stability wherever possible. One of the most striking aspects of Rockefeller's psychology was his ability to convert fear into strategy. Childhood had taught him that unpredictability was dangerous. As a man, he never allowed the uncertainties of the market, competitors, or human behavior to induce panic. Instead, he anticipated volatility, prepared contingency plans, and built redundancies into every system he controlled. Pipelines reduced dependency on railroads. Trusts consolidated fragmented operations. Vertical integration allowed Standard Oil to manage production, refining, and distribution in a single coordinated network. Every decision reduced uncertainty and increased control. He did not chase wealth opportunistically. He accumulated it as a consequence of eliminating vulnerability. Even in the face of regulatory pressure, Rockefeller applied the same psychological rigor. The Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 threatened to break monopolies and reintroduce competition into markets he had streamlined. Rather than reacting with panic or public confrontation, Rockefeller navigated legal challenges strategically. He reorganized his holdings, created trust structures, and ensured continuity of operations. He never allowed emotion to dictate response. The calm application of intellect and foresight allowed him not only to survive legal scrutiny, but to continue consolidating influence. While the public narrative painted him as manipulative, Rockefeller's focus remained on stability, not personal vindication. Rockefeller's approach to philanthropy further illustrates the integration of psychology into strategy. He gave away vast sums to education, science, and religion, not only out of moral conviction, but because these investments extended his influence and reinforced his values. By supporting institutions, he shaped social structures according to principles of order, discipline, and progress. Giving was not an indulgence. It was another form of calculated control. He viewed society as an extended system in which careful intervention could produce stability and improvement. In this, Rockefeller's psychology revealed a pattern. He sought control not solely for profit, but to impose rational order on a chaotic world. Despite his wealth and influence, Rockefeller's personal habits remained remarkably consistent. He lived frugally, adhered to strict routines, and maintained daily rituals that reinforced discipline. Meals were simple. Sleep was regulated. Work was structured. Even when dealing with crises, he remained calm, composed, and methodical. His internal environment mirrored his external operations. Both were designed to eliminate unpredictability. While others might have succumbed to hubris or excess, Rockefeller's self-restraint allowed him to preserve clarity of thought, enabling decisions that others could not even imagine. This psychological pattern extended to his handling of people. Rockefeller understood human behavior better than most of his contemporaries. He could predict the responses of rivals, partners, and employees with uncanny accuracy. He observed gestures, listened for tonal cues, and interpreted decisions as logical extensions of underlying fears and desires. In negotiations, he remained silent until the correct moment, presenting offers in a way that appeared fair but was strategically inevitable. His calmness functioned as a psychological tool, inducing errors in others while minimizing errors in himself. Whereas competitors relied on charisma or aggression, Rockefeller relied on calculation and perception. The accumulation of wealth, then, was almost secondary to the primary goal: predictability and control. Money was a tangible representation of order. Each dollar reflected the elimination of risk, the refinement of process, and the mastery of an environment that was inherently volatile. Rockefeller's psychological training allowed him to see that the path to fortune was not through luck or competition alone, but through the disciplined application of calm, observation, and strategic consistency. Wealth followed naturally from this approach. By the end of his active business career, Rockefeller had become a symbol of both unprecedented financial achievement and a form of psychological mastery rarely seen in history. Standard Oil was not merely a company, it was an extension of Rockefeller's mind. Its systems reflected his discipline, its efficiency mirrored his patience, and its dominance embodied the rational calculation that had guided him since childhood. Competitors failed not because they were less intelligent, but because they lacked the internal architecture that enabled him to maintain composure under stress, to anticipate outcomes, and to act with precision. In examining Rockefeller's psychology, one sees a continuum from boyhood to empire. Observation, calculation, discipline, patience, frugality, and emotional regulation formed the foundation of every decision. He learned early that chaos threatened safety, and he devoted a lifetime to eliminating chaos wherever he could influence it. He learned that emotional reactions undermined outcomes, and he trained himself to act in measured, deliberate ways. He understood human behavior, market dynamics, and operational logistics as interconnected systems. By mastering himself first, he mastered the environment second. The myths of Rockefeller as ruthless or heartless misrepresent the deeper truth. He was neither cruel nor detached. He was disciplined, strategic, and focused. His calmness was a product of necessity, born from childhood instability, reinforced by habit, and perfected through experience. Aggression, impulsiveness, and emotionality were tools he avoided because they introduced unpredictability. Instead, he built an empire that was resilient, adaptive, and inevitable. Those who encountered Rockefeller in negotiation, business, or litigation rarely realized that they were not facing brute power, but a mind trained to operate under the principles of stability and foresight. Rockefeller's wealth, therefore, was not accidental or purely opportunistic. It was the product of decades of deliberate psychological conditioning applied to an industry that rewarded those who could impose order on chaos. The millions of barrels refined, the pipelines constructed, the railroads negotiated, and the companies acquired were the physical manifestation of a mental architecture built to anticipate, control, and optimize. He did not dominate through luck, force, or charm. He dominated through the consistent application of a mind attuned to predictability, disciplined thought, and strategic patience. Even in his later years, when the empire he created was both monumental and deeply scrutinized, Rockefeller remained remarkably consistent. He continued to wake early, manage finances carefully, give to charity thoughtfully, and maintain routines that reinforced clarity and self-discipline. He had achieved nearly complete control over his industry, yet he never allowed the power itself to cloud his judgment. Wealth, in Rockefeller's philosophy, was a tool for stability, a buffer against the uncertainties of life, and an extension of a disciplined mind. Ultimately, the psychology of John D. Rockefeller explains more than his fortune. It explains his ability to shape history. By translating the lessons of a childhood marked by instability into a lifetime of disciplined action, he created not only Standard Oil but an enduring paradigm of strategic thinking, operational mastery, and emotional control. Wealth was not the goal, nor was power. The goal was control over process, over risk, over human behavior, and the outcome of that control was extraordinary financial success. In the final analysis, Rockefeller's life demonstrates that true mastery, whether in business or life, is not achieved through aggression, luck, or charisma alone. It is achieved through the cultivation of internal stability, the anticipation of outcomes, the rigorous elimination of chaos, and the disciplined application of insight over time. John D. Rockefeller's fortune, therefore, was the natural byproduct of a psychology built for dominance, patience, and precision, a psychology honed from childhood into a force capable of reorganizing an entire industry, shaping the national economy, and leaving a legacy that endures not merely in dollars, but in the principles of thought, discipline, and calm mastery that made those dollars possible.